Joining me today is Andrea Simon, author of Did You Have the Life You Wanted? Uh, Protagonist Anita's journey in the novel. Anita's journey into adulthood begins in 1968, when she graduates from college, leaves her Brooklyn family home, and settles in Greenwich Village at a moment of cultural upheaval. Against a backdrop of school strikes, the Stonewall and Attica uprisings, and the rise of second wave feminism, she navigates gang violence, restricted career opportunities, entrenched gender expectations, and the quiet damage of family secrets. Over time, Anita reflects on love, ambition, and loss, posing a difficult question to herself and her friends. Did you have the life you wanted? One that elicits unexpected and painful truths. Spanning 5 decades from 1968 to 2019, Andrea Simon honors the women of the 1970s, the legacy they left their daughters, and the enduring power of female friendship. She's an award-winning writer and photographer based in New York City, and she holds an MFA in creative writing from the City College of New York and has mentored many writers. Welcome to the show, Andrea. Nice to have you on today.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. Okay, the question, which is the title of the book, obviously, did you have the life you wanted? That's kind of a frightening question, I think, because the immediate response, or at least when I read the title of the book, was, now I have to say, not that I haven't thought about it, but what if I come to the conclusion that, no, I haven't had the life I wanted? And then what do you do?
I say it's never too late. Well, I have to say that I got that response from many people when I asked that question. First, of course I did, and then, well, maybe I didn't,
Yeah.
And some people who were very disturbed with that question, and others who felt, it was a complicated answer.
Yeah, it is a complicated answer. Do you think there are some people who just didn't feel that they got the life they wanted, but really don't want to talk about it, or they repress those feelings because they feel there's nothing they can do about it when they're, I don't want to call it end of life stuff, but as
Uh-huh.
yeah. So that, because it's never too late.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is too late. Let's talk, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I'm an older person and I'm still trying to make up for lost time. So it's not too late in the sense that you could always do something. Whether you could do what you wanted to do and that you regret doing, probably not, but you're a different person also as an
Yeah.
older person than you were as a younger person.
Yeah.
So hopefully you find something that's the equivalent. It gives you a certain sense of power over your life. But I
Well,
think that answer also depends on how old you are and what generation you grew up in, because certainly in Anita's world and my own as well, women did not have a lot of options for occupations, basically, and even in personal life.
yeah.
So as they grew older and saw that they missed out on certain things, uh, either they tried to change it or they couldn't for whatever reason, whether it was financial or they didn't have the options. So they might have lived with a lot of regret.
Well, I think you said in the book there was a sentence, we're influenced by societal norms, and because I'm part of your generation as well, and we were just paralyzed because I think you talk about this, that when we graduated from college, the options were social worker, anyway, social worker, psychologist, or lawyer. Those were the three
Yeah.
things. Choose those, and I actually chose two of those. But yeah, so the constraints were there. Um,
And teaching. Yeah.
yeah, you could be a teacher, right?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. But you couldn't be a doctor. You couldn't be in politics. You couldn't be a CEO. We can go on, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
some of the choices one makes are not necessarily your personal choices, but the constraints of the society and culture in which you live, right?
Yes, and also your parents. I mean, in my generation, my mother was an immigrant and my father was a sort of failure in business. And they really they were products of the Depression as well. They influenced us in the sense of choose something that gives you security, not necessarily having something that you really was fulfilling for you was not a something even they even thought of. And
You know,
so that was just I knew I didn't want that. I saw how regret really ruined their lives in many ways, and not that they realized it, but as older people, I think they realized it. And I know my mother wanted to go back to school at the age of 40, and she was told she was too old. Which is really laughable now.
Yeah,
But
now it is laughable. But it's interesting
yeah.
you should say that because coming from the just same generation, did not have that experience. I had a father, Harvard Law School, successful attorney. My mother went to Columbia Graduate School, MSW, but quit the last semester to get married. That was typical of her generation. They never said don't do anything or
Hmm.
necessarily do something. It was more somewhat benign,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
No, me too.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever told don't do anything. It was just like you did what other people did. There was very little guidance. And when I was in Brooklyn College, and Anita had the same experience, after 2 years, they said, "What do you want to major in? What are you interested in?" And I said, "Writing, art, music, all that stuff." And it was a man. He said, "Well, you have to be a teacher. There's no other option for a woman." And so I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, although I ended up being one late in life, and I'm happy doing it.
Yeah.
But in those days, I was less rebellious, and I didn't want to do what I was told to do. So I don't think my parents discouraged me. They just didn't think there were other options. They didn't realize it.
Well, I'm going to say something on the air I probably shouldn't say because I have a partner of almost 40 years. We're not married. I was married for 20 years. My listeners know that. But anyway, so we've been together for 40 years. And I think my biggest regret is that I didn't sleep with as many men as I wished I could have or should have. And that is the truth. I got all the degrees. I have two master's degrees. I love what I do, but that's my biggest regret. How about that?
Well, I could say it's never too late.
Now that is too late, right?
Well, I've been married for 50 years, so
Okay.
not to one up you or anything, but
Okay.
I know I managed to get a little part of that in, but not as much as I would
Well,
have
me
liked.
too. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. I got some of it in, but not enough. But anyway, okay. Uh, yeah. All right. So let's talk about Anita. Are you Anita, or how does that? It's not a
Well,
memoir.
everybody thinks it is, and
Yeah.
especially people that knew me. But in this, I write all different types of things. I write memoirs, which have real people in them, and totally fictional. And this is sort of a combo. I would say it's autobiographical fiction. A lot of the things that Anita went through, I went through, or I went through some of it. Some of the people are made up. Some are conglomerations of a few different people. I would say Anita became Anita in the course of writing the book and not me. Even though she had several similar things happen to her, I think this happens to us writers if we're sort of like really giving into the characters. We let them alone and let them find their own way and gave them certain obstacles in life that I didn't personally have. And so Anita had to choose those solutions herself. So people that I know who've read the book, are so obsessed with what did this really happen to you, and did that really happen to you? So I think there are some similarities, but I wouldn't say she's me.
Okay, so well, you just mentioned it, but choices and the obstacles, because that affects our choices might be different and our obstacles may be somewhat different,
Yeah,
although, yeah, but let's talk about those because that's what gets in the way, I think, of perhaps feeling like you didn't live the life you wanted to
yeah,
live. Yeah. Um,
definitely.
yeah. So choices. What kinds of choices did Anita have? Maybe that
Well,
she
she
did.
didn't have
Yeah.
many choices, I have to say, according to her talents, and that's another thing too, that she had these creative talents that weren't necessarily recognized as in the professional world. It was more like, isn't it fun that she writes or that she draws pictures? Isn't that a nice thing to do? But she never thought of it as a career choice. So after her, I don't want to give too much away, but after her experience as a caseworker was so horrendous to her, she ended up thinking to herself that she does like writing. What is there available to her in the writing world? And she ended up getting a job as a copywriter, which was something that women did. And in the publishing world that she worked in, most of the copywriters or art directors and stuff were women, as opposed to the vice presidents and presidents that were usually men. And so she ended up getting into that world, but it was really a world of her not doing what she wanted to do because she had clients. She had to do write book jackets or write advertising. This wasn't it was creative, but it wasn't her own writing. And it took her a long time to realize that that was frustrating to her.
So what about lessons learned? I mean, in terms of writing the book, because if we go, if, fast forward to now,
Yeah.
some of these obstacles that you've been talking about are really not there. They're still there, many of them, but not in the same way, or they're not manifested in the same way, I guess. So in terms of it, with the book, would you say to young people or young women, hey, listen, read the book because you have to see what, the evolution of what's happened to us and where are we going? And so you need to know the history.
Yes, definitely. I think that one of the reasons I wrote this was that I see what's happening in the last few years of going backwards. I mean, in the 1970s, we were very involved in women's rights and feminism and friendships and all that stuff and anti-Semitism. And now everything I feel is watered down and going backwards. And so I think that I would like younger people to read this and appreciate what we went through and how difficult it was to overcome some of these things, and maybe they'll be more aware of doing something about it.
Yeah. Do you think they're ignorant today? Do you think most women, many women, well-educated women, really don't have a sense of what is happening and this kind of a sliding backwards to
Well, I wouldn't say all women, but I would say that some of it is the internet and the way you consume information now. It's very superficial. It's very misinformation. It's very watered down, and young people, not necessar don't necessarily have the tools or the will to really read things. They can just go to AI, even for personal opinions. And it's a different way of consuming information. And I know that I've written two books on the Holocaust, and I realize when I go to talk about these books that young people are not aware of what happened during the Holocaust and how pervasive and horrible anti-Semitism is. And it's coming back again. And I just don't know if young people realize what this means and how this could lead to such horror. It's already starting, but it's just a different way of consuming information. And I really hope that young people do read history, but real history. I mean, books and memoirs and stories of people who have really gone through things, and not just pick up opinions from the internet.
So how do you get them to do that? Because they don't do that, and our culture doesn't encourage it, as you say, and neither does all the technology. Because what's happening is, at least in my experience, is that the sense of history is sort of forgotten.
It is.
So okay, so we say that, but then how do you get people to connect to it? At the same time, you're still going to be connecting to AI. I mean, you're still get that and social media. I mean, because that's here to stay. I guess how do you reconcile the two? Do you have the answer for that?
Well, does anyone?
I know. Well, maybe you
I,
do. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
know when I'm with young people, I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
two grandsons, 8 and 10,
Yeah.
and when I'm with them, I probably sound like a very old lady to them, but I just gave them a lesson on penmanship because they don't learn how to write cursive,
No.
and
It's
I do a lot of art projects with them, and
okay.
one
So
of
when they say to you, "Why do I need to why, Grammy or
yeah.
Grandma, why do
I
I
make
need
a
to do
game
that?"
out of it. They
Yeah.
like it. I mean, one of them likes to write, and he just wrote a novel. It's one sentence, the whole novel.
Hmm.
So, so I hope he doesn't listen to this. And anyway, I gave him a lesson on punctuation, and I made it into a game, you know, and he had a good time, and I think he learned something. Whether that's going to solve anything, I'm trying to show them the benefit of old-fashioned skills. And I buy them books all the time, which most of the time they don't read. But
Yeah.
I try to do board games with them. I try to show them other things, to show them that there is a other way of of appreciating information in a slower paced manner. And I don't know if it's going to make any difference, but so far they seem to like me.
They they like you now. They're 8 and 10, but I'll
I'm
talk.
Sally Field. They like me. They
Yeah,
like.
right. Well, my grandchildren call me half old because I do similar things that you do, but yeah. Okay, so that's a piece of it, but okay, so and that's your
And
individual
then
experience.
I write. I write all the time.
Yeah,
I write books and I write essays that, they don't all get published, but I try to do it in a way that young people will appreciate it. Some things are funny and some things are relatable. And I teach, and I taught at City College, and they were all, I would say, 90% of the students who took the course were foreigners, and they're very respectful of older people, and it was a great experience for me, And as a matter of fact, one kid said they wanted to become a writer, and I thought, oh my God, that poor kid. I better
yeah,
not, better tell him that he should
yeah,
put that aside, or at
yeah.
least
Good
continue
luck.
it, but don't expect to make a living out of it.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Well, so what kind of questions did they ask you? Here you are, this older person. Like they're going to maybe ask you different questions than they would say somebody who was 40 or 50 who was teaching the class, professor. Um, what kinds of things what did they want from you?
Well, sometimes they ask me about my experience in my life. Did I live through this? Did I live through that? Did I live
Yeah.
through the Revolutionary War? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. They
Did
might
you?
ask me about my life experience, but basically, it was a writing course. It was really about the questions I had were really about how do I express this, and what should I write about, and what subjects are good, and is my writing any good? And sometimes, I would bring my own experiences in. So it was more like a response to experiences rather than actual advice.
Yeah.
The advice I gave them was really to dig into their own life, and most of them had such incredible experiences. I had a Chinese girl who was rejected by her family because she was a girl. And, and I had Muslim kids, and this was right after 9/11, who couldn't walk down the street. I mean, they had amazing life experiences. And I tried to encourage them to write about it. And some of them were afraid of their own parents reading their stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, write it for us. Don't care about them at this point. I mean, not
Oh,
that you should hide from your parents, but you should get it out.
yeah. Get it out. Well, I think that part of the aging process is that I think it gets easier and easier to get things out and
Yeah.
feel less concerned about people judging you or being judged, that's not the issue as one, I think
Yes.
as one gets, which is a positive thing, I think, which is a good thing. Um, the too little, too late. I want to get back to that because I mean, and be more specific about that because you can continue to make changes, do things differently, make different choices with if you're 60, 70, 80, even
Hmm.
90s. Yeah. Or older, I guess now. So what kinds of things can you do? Can you, in terms of making different things that didn't work for you, but you want to change them in later life?
Well, if I bring my own experience, I was 65 and I went back to school for my MFA, and that was like a long time in between. And they one of the requirements at City College in those days was that you had to have a foreign language. So the foreign language I took was French, and I hadn't spoken French or learned anything in French in like 40 years. So it was a like scary, horrible experience. I didn't think I could make it. I was afraid. I had to get a tutor and all this stuff. And anyway, I ended up getting in, which I'm sure was a mistake on that part in terms of the French thing. And I realized I loved school, which I never had that feeling when I was a young person, because I was doing something that I really enjoyed and that I was good at. And I realized that when I was writing pieces for the teachers, or the assignments, that I was good, and that many of the teachers said, "Oh, you should be teaching this course." And it made me think about teaching in a way that I had rejected when I was in my 20s. And so I learned a lot about myself, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I didn't let fear rule me. I was open to the experience. They knew I was old.
Well, I
Uh,
think that thing, don't let fear hold you back, because taking
right.
risks can
I mean,
get
it
more.
wasn't easy, but
No.
it was extremely rewarding, and I love teaching now. I've been teaching not just that, but online teaching for adults, and I get a lot of gratification from it. And my years in the publishing world uh, gave me something that I didn't appreciate at the time, which was the skills to be a good editor and a good designer of and typesetter. All the skills that we used to have that no, now you can just push a button, were
Yeah.
very helpful to me as I was producing books,
Do you
and
see yourself as a risk taker?
I would say yes, modified.
A modified risk taker.
Right, a
Okay, that's
modified
okay.
mistake.
Yeah. All right. So,
So, it's those things. And also I've had several like major illnesses that I had to go over. And then it makes you, it's such a cliche to say it makes you appreciate your life more and to try and get as much as you can out of the time that you have.
what about girlfriends? Because we haven't touched on that, and I know that's a lot that in the book,
Yes.
having to do with relationships with women and how that helps. Having those kinds of relationships is really helpful in terms of supportive, nurturing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah.
definitely a theme of the book, and it's a very essential part of my life. I talk I was talking to somebody the other day about the fact that I had two very good friends when I was like 3 years old in Brooklyn, and they're still my good friends to this day. We talk all the time, and been very supportive. I have a number of good friends that I've met through work or through school or through parent things and moving, and that I keep them. I try to keep them and nurture them. I have two writing groups. One has been meeting for 30 years, and the other was formed from one of the courses I taught. And
I
they're
think
all
you have to add to the girlfriends, because in my experience, I had five best friends, but three of them are dead.
yeah,
So now I have two left, and I have to, nurture new relationships which aren't the same.
yeah. It's harder I think, to make friends at an older age, especially if you work online a lot in your home and you don't have that family, that work family. So it's a whole different thing. But I have the two writing groups that we meet on Zoom once a month, each group, and we're very supportive to each other. And I find in Anita's case, she had the consciousness raising groups in the 1970s, where she took some of her friends that she knew and she met other women, but it was very essential to get through that period.
How do you
And
experience ageism? I know I'm switching topics, but we don't have that much time left in
yeah,
terms of how people perceive you. Not the people that, not in your, and I'm not talking about your profession and your teaching and those,
right.
yeah.
Personally, I mean.
Personally, just in your everyday life, yeah, in your everyday life, and how
Well,
do you combat that? That's my last question.
okay. Well, I think I like to shock people about how old I am.
Like,
So sometimes people think I'm a lot younger than I am. They don't look closely at my wrinkles, I guess.
yeah,
But and when I tell them how old I am, they're always like in shock. And so I began to feel insulted by that. Not because of being ashamed of that, but because in a way they were saying, "You're that old?" You
yeah,
know, and you don't look it, you don't seem it. And that's because people my age have such a terrible rap. I mean,
yeah,
think of people that are in their 70s or even 80s who are decrepit and they don't do anything, and they're Alzheimer, and they don't work, and they're retired, and they're depressed, and that's not true. I don't think so. My friends, who include retired people, are very vibrant. I'm not saying I haven't had that experience that you were talking about. Certainly some of them have died and some have moved away. So, but I think,
and then the rest of them are running the country.
yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
Doesn't seem to stop
Yeah.
our politics for some reason. That's the only job you can get as an old person.
Well, that's true.
But
Okay.
it's a depressing thing, and it's my husband just retired after 52 years of working, and for men, it's hard. It's hard to retire because we women have friends mostly. I'm
Yeah.
talking generally, of course, And we have people to support us. Men in general don't have friendships based on nurturing. They have it based on sporting events or things that they do
Right,
in common. And all of a sudden, these people are not valued.
right. Then
And
they can depend on you.
yes, and so it becomes not only you have to take care of your own needs, but you have to worry about your spouses being
Right.
happy. And there's not enough in society to sustain older people emotionally and occupationally, I don't think.
Right.
And
Now that's a whole different topic and a
yeah,
different show, and you're
we could
absolutely
talk
right.
we could talk a
Yeah.
long time about
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That makes me angry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I told, yeah, that's true. We have 2 minutes left. Okay, so as I said or when we were off air, but give us websites or platforms to go to for more information about you and about what you
Well,
are
I have a
doing.
website,
Yeah.
AndreaSimon.net. There are a few Andrea Simons out there, but I have the .net one. And
Okay.
it's a kind of comprehensive website. I have a page on each book that I wrote and with reviews and ordering information. And then there's a section of stories and poems and interviews. And I also have a section of photography. So it's, if you want to know anything about my life, you could look there. And also, I have Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. I'm very happy to talk to anybody, or they can email me, or to talk about writing issues or anything. I think that's pretty it.
That's great. Thanks so much for being on the show today. I really did enjoy our conversation.
Me too. It was
Yeah,
great
me
to talk
too.
to
It
you.
was fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, Andrea Simon, author of Did You Have the Life You Wanted? Yeah. Joining me today is Maggie Nick, author of Good Kids, Why You Suffered in Silence and How to Break the Cycle. Good Kids, Why You Suffered in Silence and How to Break the Cycle. Trauma therapist and parenting specialist Maggie Nick examines how well-behaved, emotionally compliant children often mature into anxious, uncertain adults. By clearing By clearly explaining relationship shame trauma, she shows how good kids learn to suppress feelings, crave approval, and worry about being a burden, habits that frequently follow them into adult life. As a self identified recovering good kid, she brings personal insight to the subject, demonstrating how these pressures accumulate and how healing is possible. Grounded in research and extensive clinical work with adult good kids, she provides practical guidance for parents and adults alike to recognize damaging patterns, interrupt generational cycles of harmful parenting, and build self compassion, emotional security, and genuine connected relationships that support lasting growth, resilience, and healthier family dynamics. She founded Camp Lovable, a self compassion focused healing community, and is widely known for her popular Instagram and TikTok accounts. Maggie with Perspectacles. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you on, Maggie.
Hi. Hi, it's so lovely to be here. Thank you. And I am getting double audio.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good. Okay, let me
I'm
just.
hearing a recording.
Okay. Let me just tell my board up. Maggie is getting.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
Are you okay?
I am.
Okay, you're good.
Seems like it. There we go.
Is that good?
It's like playing 5 seconds ago.
Oh.
Seems like it's just us now though, so I think we're good. Oh, no, still hearing the other one. It's playing the recording.
Okay.
No, still getting the double audio. It's like playing back what I said 5 seconds ago.
Okay.
Maybe 10 seconds ago.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, I don't think I have that up, but I will check. Okay. Okay. Are we good? I'm not hearing anymore.
Okay.
I think we're back. Okay, I'm not hearing it anymore. I don't know what happened, but I think we're good.
Okay, well, I'm
Thank
talking.
you for whatever you did.
Okay, so I think we fixed that. We can, we're good. And I'm talking to Maggie Nick, who is the author of Good Kids, Why You Suffered in Silence and How to Break the Cycle. So so we start over again?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. I introduced you again. I introduced the book. Okay, Good Kids. So, you think good kids, that's a good thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing. And you were a good kid. I have to, transparency. I was not a good kid. I was not a bad kid, but we'll get into that. So what is a good kid? And I'm putting that in what? Quotations.
Right. Yeah, good kids are the ones who are so mature for their age, the ones who are such an old soul and always a delight to have in class, right? That was me. And they're the kids who are taking care of everything. They're easy to parent. They're never disrespectful. They're always, always, always behaved. And like you said, I think there is this cultural misguided belief that good parents have good kids who are always, always, always behaved. And so I think generation after generation, parents have seen it as their role to, basically punish kids into being good kids. And then once their kids stop being disrespectful and pushing back, they're like, okay, we did it. I'm a good parent. And it turns out the kids seem to be doing okay, but they're just so often not okay at all.
So on the outside, their behavior is good, right? They're doing
Yes.
the right thing, and but there's stuffing in their. I'm saying using the word stuffing, repressing, whatever the word is, right? Their feelings. So none of that stuff gets out, and it's sort of which is not good.
Right. Yeah. So often the the kids and the people, adults who look the happiest, the most capable, the most successful are just so often the ones who are just not okay at all. And I had to admit that was true for me at some point. I was the happiest, friendliest, sunshine, sparkles, and rainbows kind of person throughout my childhood, but internally I was not okay. And I really didn't know that, though. That was the crazy thing until I got into therapy in my 20s. And eventually I'm like, oh, I am bottling up all of my feelings. That's why I'm so anxious. And that's why I have a terrible relationship with food.
Okay, let's talk about the symptoms because that's
Yeah.
important. I mean, that's personal for you, but
Yep.
so you're talking about food, relationship with food,
Yep.
not good. What about other symptoms of a kid who is suppressing their feelings and trying to be the good girl?
Yep. Well, and I have in the book, I call it check engine lights for good kids. It's not really a red flag. There's nothing wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with the child. So it's more of a check engine light, right? It's like a little indicator at the surface that there's something deeper going on. And I, as a therapist working with kids, these are the sort of check engine lights that I look for. So I list 10 in the book. Perfectionism is obviously a huge one. Just a debilitating fear of failing, right? Not wanting to try new things because they're so afraid that they'll fail. And what will that mean about them? People pleasing, being terrified of upsetting people and making people mad, not being able to say no without going into a panic, holding a lot of fear around conflict. And I don't want anybody to be disappointed in me. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. Bottling their feelings is huge. We cannot be a regulated person who feels good mentally or physically if we're pushing all of our feelings down. Like think a balloon that needs to pop. Like the more that we push down, the more that balloon has to work really hard to hold all of that in. And that comes at a real cost.
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about it's a really exaggerated form of what our cultural expectations are for women in a way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, which doesn't necessarily stand us in good stead, right? Yeah, go
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and I mean, there's absolutely gendered nuances here. I'd love to explore that in future books, because it really, everything here is like hashtag women in our culture. But there are a lot of men, maybe a surprising number of men that I've worked with and been up close with and seen this with them. They also struggle with all these things. And the next check engine light is anxiety and like hypervigilance, just being on edge, on high alert, struggling to relax, struggling to sit still without always doing something. And good kids also tend to have two speeds. Like either they're going 150 miles per hour or they're crashing and burning. Like they really struggle to downshift from high achieving, a stacked calendar, living life with no margins, staying busy and crushing life and everything every second, or they're in bed with a stress crash. Most good kids struggle to find that in between. And that has to do with them, believing that they must be impressive, right? That the most lovable version of themselves is the one that's impressive in how well they're doing, impressive in how little they need from others, right? Yeah. Impressive that anyone else would crumble under the pressure of what they're carrying. But like, look at me, I'm doing great. Like that.
Just listening to you is
many
exhausting. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of pressure, So in other words, good behavior, as you say, isn't a reliable measure of emotional health. And that did resonate with me. And this was having gone through a divorce many years ago. And my 3 kids, they were getting straight A's, doing well in school. And I remember the social worker saying that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not the measure of their emotional health at this particular point going through this crisis. And so that's so true. And we do measure things by that. Yes. They get good grades. They're good at sports. They're, all the things that you just mentioned. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so interesting that you bring that example up because in my first year out of grad school as a therapist, seeing clients, I would have parents call and this was before, I guess I had an Instagram account by this point. I was sharing things, but like didn't have a big following yet. And I was sort of learning as I go, and using my platforms to kind of work stuff out and share. And so I would have parents who would call and they had a child who was really struggling, like disrespect or just something, a big struggle on the outside. You know, their family had moved, or there had been a divorce or a remarriage or death of a family member. And they were so worried about the bad kid, basically, right?
Yeah.
That's being aggressive, disrespectful, not, you know, wanting to go to school. And I would say, okay, totally get it. Is there a child in your home that seems just fine? Is there anyone that you're really not worried about at all? And they'd be like, oh yeah, my oldest, generally, my daughter, you know, she's great. We're not worried about her. And I'd be like, well, I need to see her first. I'm more worried about her, right?
Yeah.
Not that the other child who's struggling doesn't absolutely need and deserve support, but good kids are suffering in silence. And there's almost this belief that suffering makes them good, like that they deserve to suffer. And it's not that they can't ask for help, it's that they don't believe they deserve help in the first place. You know, they
And
have to handle everything alone.
I think there's also, when you're going through the crisis that you described and that I described, is, you know, there's that struggle to, I want things to be orderly, that they need to, you know, keep things in order and things will be okay. But if I let go, then who knows what's going to happen, because look what's happened, or at least the feeling is, look what's happening around me. So let's get things under control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I really do have so much compassion for our parents and all parents, you know, because this is generational trauma. This is, you know, there's these misguided beliefs that have been passed down for generations, right? The good kids have respectful, well-behaved kids who always, always, always behave and are always respectful and never act out. And most parents, including ours, truly didn't know there would be such a fallout from raising kids to believe they needed to be good all the time, or from saying things like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. What is wrong with you? I love you, but I don't like you. And the silent treatment to handle misbehavior and disrespect. You
How about
know?
with babies in the very beginning? This is something that I often hear. Oh, he's such a good baby. And I always say, I want you to know this. What do you mean? All babies are good. I mean, what
Yeah,
is that? So, but that kind of starts out that way. Well,
it does.
yeah, he or she is a really good baby. Well, what does that mean? They never,
Oh,
yeah,
right. They never need me,
yeah.
basically. We start conditioning very young. But again, there are these misguided beliefs that just show up as muscle memory for us. We didn't put it there. It's just the world we were raised in. That's really what I'm passionate about. It's just I want to really launch a revolution and a paradigm shift here, that like a baby who is never needing their parent, that's not a good thing. Like we want to raise kids to speak their needs, right? All the way down to infancy. Like, yes, we're freaking exhausted as parents. And those first few months are the most exhausted I've ever been in my life. But conditioning a child from birth to not call when they need us is not what we really want in the end. That's doing more harm than good. That makes it easier for us as the parent. And I'm a parent here. And it's really nice when my kids are well behaved and make my job easier, right?
Right.
It's so nice to catch my breath. But at the end of the day, there is a cost to being easy to raise, a huge cost.
Isn't there a competition amongst mothers, fathers, caregivers, whoever they are, that the, you know, 3-week-old baby, and maybe I'm exaggerating, sleeps through the night for 10 hours. And so we're rested and he or she sleeps through the night. Well, good for you, because that always bothered me.
Yeah.
Because my kids never slept through the night at early ages. But anyway, but that pressure really just starts from day one.
It does. It really does. It's crazy when you really think about it. Like,
so I was going to ask you this too, because you're
Go ahead.
talking about intergenerational, and this is something that's definitely something that you're concerned with, that this goes from generation to generation. However, I mean, Maggie, isn't there are a group of parents who I see who now do the opposite. Everything that little Johnny or Susie says is important, and if you're in a restaurant with them and they're having a meltdown, and you know, we have to discuss it and talk about it. That's the opposite. That doesn't seem too healthy either.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, whenever I see a video online of somebody, and I'm not trying to throw shade here, everybody, but like when I see a video of somebody being like, you should never tell your kid no, I'm just like, bro, we've lost the plot. Like, we have lost the plot here.
Yeah.
Kids need confident, loving leaders. They need leaders who can see through their messy behavior at the surface, the disrespect, the meltdown, the, eye rolling, the sighs, the whining. Like kids need a confident, loving leader who can see that at the surface and then trust and believe and hold on that their real child is in there underneath. Right?
Yep.
Like our parents, I feel like when we were aggressive or disrespectful or lazy, they made us feel seen in a bad way. That's really like good kid trauma is relational shame trauma. It's shame that happens inside our relationships with our parents, and it goes unseen and unacknowledged, and therefore becomes a trauma and that we carry for the rest of our lives. And when we had these moments where we were disrespectful, or for me, needy was a big one. I was made to feel awful about myself if I was needy and kind of clingy. Because it turns out kids have more emotional needs than just being told, I love you and I'm proud of you, right? Turns out sometimes we need a little bit more. And so when we were like that, our parents made us feel, and again, their parents made them feel, this goes all the way back, but we were made to feel like this is who you really are. And this version of you is unacceptable. I better never see this side of you again. Right. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like it is effective. It quote works. If we want to talk about just straight up behavior modification, like your child may stop being disrespectful. You may see them stop pushing back. I'm over here jumping up and down, telling you that's not a good thing. Right? Because our child, when that happens, when we bring that energy of like, this is unacceptable, they hear you are unacceptable. They don't hear, my parent doesn't like this behavior. They experience it as my parent has seen the real me, and the real me is bad. Right? That's
what about siblings? I'm going to stop you there because you did mention you have at least one sibling.
Absolutely.
And they're all different, and they can interpret these messages differently.
Yes.
Each kid.
100%.
Yeah. So
well, and gosh, like parenting multiple children and having to shapeshift in real time to what each child needs from you is the most exhausting thing I've ever been through, right?
Yeah.
Lots of compassion for parents here. There's a subset of good kids who grew up with a difficult sibling, right? A bad kid who is the sibling. And the parents, understandably, are wiped out and exhausted and barely making it. And so there's this pressure that's put on the good kid, right? To be like, I need you to be my easy one. I know I can count on you. And like a lot of my adult clients at this point will say, my parent always said, I never needed to worry about you, like a nose boop. And it's like, okay, but I did my best to make myself the easiest child to raise, right? I did my best to never burden you with any needs and never need you, but like I needed you to worry about me, right? Like I was not okay. I was just pretending to try to make your life easier. And I think that's such an important part of this. There are times that a parent or a sibling is going through a medical, or mental health thing. And like we just end up with this dynamic where the good kid has got these just unbelievable expectations put on them that they are not developmentally capable of meeting. But then they're made to feel if they don't meet or exceed expectations that they have failed, and that the parent is disappointed because I trust you to be my easy child, that kind of stuff. And as a parent myself, man, the moments that I have parts of me that want to just fall right into that, and just trying to be like, no, I've got to be checking in on all of my children. I have two, and I've got to, when one is really struggling, when one is in a good stretch, I have to just be checking in, not excessively, like you were saying earlier, with parents who are just way too involved with their child's emotions, right? But just being aware of the fact that the kid who is seemingly fine and never needs us does need us, just doesn't know how to say that,
I think that is this point you're making now is critical, because I think, as you said, as parents, that's so easy to do, because the parent, you're needy yourself at the moment. So you turn to the one that is going to be the most helpful, or the one that helps you. You really have to be aware that, I'm reiterating maybe what you said, but you need to be aware and not do that. That is especially, it's not that you're never going to do it, but a pattern of doing that is really, Yeah, that's
Right. Seasons, we have seasons where we're recovering from something or we're in it. I'm kind of in that season right now, about to launch my first book, right? I have less capacity to go around. It's not like we can't have seasons, right? It just, when it is consistently the pattern and the crushing expectations put on a child, because the other child needs me, like that can be devastating. But back to your question about different siblings and how the pressure to be good lands differently, I do talk about this a lot in the book. I have a hypothesis it's somewhat validated in the literature. I don't have like one study I can point to. I wish I did. Somebody please do the study for me. But I do think that when we think in terms of a nervous system, right, we can all see that and this is oversimplifying for sure, but that there are kind of two camps, maybe three, of children. When you think of, any family or, a group of kids, there are going to be the kid, or it's really three. There are going to be the kids who are the good kids, who are just naturally compliant, that are just going to tend towards being less difficult. That's just kind of how they're made. And then on the other end, we have the bad kids. And I don't believe they're bad in any way, shape, or form, but just for purposes of simplicity, right? Yeah. The kids who push back, who have the audacity to keep trying to get what they want or keep pushing us. They don't back down when they're punished. No, punishments don't seem to work, those kids. And then we have a middle ground. There's some kids that kind of slide back and forth. Okay. It is my belief that the good kids there have a different nervous system than the bad kids. They're wired a different way. I think that the bad kids, and again, not bad, I hate saying that, but I don't know what else to say. The difficult kids, are wired,
is good,
right? Are wired more for a fight flight response. What you're seeing when they won't back down, when the no punishments seem to work, is that their nervous system is wired to do something about it. Their nervous system is wired to fight back. Right? Yeah. Or run away and shut down. And the good kids, I think, have a nervous system that's wired towards a fawn or freeze response. Fawn response being like people pleasing, getting small, right? Appeasing, pleasing, not upsetting, just getting over accommodating, or freeze being another way to shut down.
So you're saying there's absolutely a physical component to this, besides the parenting skills or not non-skills. It's actually a physical,
a neurological, a nervous system,
nervous system. Okay.
There is research that is validating this. Again, I can't point to a single study that like says all of this, but we can look at clusters of studies and see this emerging, this pattern. And so I think it's so important to keep reminding ourselves of that. I have one child who's wired as a good kid and one child who's wired to be that difficult kid. And so it's so easy for me, based on how I was raised and every parenting, insight I've ever heard, to think, oh, I just need to work harder with the one who fights back, right? I just need to punish them into submission, right? I need to make them respectful by teaching them it's never okay to push back, right? I'm disappointed in you. How could you do that? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it would be so easy, like I am in the struggle of this daily. And I just have to keep choosing that, like, no, this child is just wired differently. They're the thing that feels like a relentless audacity to push back is just how their body is made.
So as a therapist and as a mother, but as both, how do you do that? How do you mitigate that kind of behavior? What do you do? I mean, I know that's in the book, but.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons I am here at all is because I kept, gentle parenting felt good, but did feel pretty permissive to me, very like never say no kind of stuff that felt overly permissive. So I'm like, we're onto something, but we're not quite there. And I felt like nobody was speaking to, there are two pieces to this. One is when I was in graduate school seeing clients in counseling, kids mostly, I had one or two kids who came in with a diagnosis of oppositional defiance disorder, right? The kids who just are extremely defiant, get kicked out of schools. They're the kids the teachers warn other teachers about, right? And I had two families that came in and I just was like, I think that the way you're trying to punish them into submission is actually not working. Like I think, and that it was really where I saw the shame landing so hard for them, because those kids would sit on my couch and they would say, "I hate myself when I disappoint and let down my parents. Like I know better. What is wrong with me?" And
Yeah.
so when I had the parents shift to like, I wonder if this is them being the balloon that needs to explode, right? The balloon that's about to pop. And what if this is where my whole resist to release to regulate framework came from, was those kids that like, because they ended up referring a bunch of other families who had ODD kids. And this kids, when they are dysregulated, they move into resistance to us. And they need us to set a boundary, say no, own the hell out of the no, like, but with love, not shame, right? So they need us to say, the answer is no. And it's okay for you to have big feelings about the fact that I just said no, right? I'm holding the no is the no. And it's okay if you're disappointed. Like, we've got to let our kids be mad at us. Like the number of parents, and this has been a big struggle for me, number of parents who struggle to let their kids be mad without taking it personally. Kids just need us to be like, hey, the answer is no. And you don't have to like it. You can be mad at me. I've got it. Right. But most of us are in a chokehold with the "are you mad at me" struggle, just so worried about what will happen if someone's mad at us. And this is very involved. Like most of us have never in our lifetime experienced somebody being mad at us and still making us feel like they love us right now.
And the stakes are so high emotionally for the parent,
they
depending
really
on
are.
how, your book is so on target. I have to say, I'm just, we only have a couple minutes left. I mean, I
Yeah.
really recommend, and I interview a lot of, child psychologists, social workers, et cetera. But this book, I have to say, your book really hits the mark. And I do mean
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. I mean, um, so I hate to have to end the interview, but I want you to tell us where, obviously, where they can get the book online everywhere, I
Yep.
assume, right? Yeah.
Yep. Comes out January 27th.
January 27th. Okay. So, yeah. And then I didn't I read that you have lovable,
Camp Lovable. Yeah.
Camp Lovable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's sort of growing and emerging into new things, but I've had a membership for women for almost 2 years. It's called Good Girl Rehab. And it's a space where women can come work with me. We're moving over to a different platform, but right this minute we have a Facebook group, and that's our cabin. And I drop a care package every month on a different topic, and then we focus on that topic. This month, the topic is "Your body is not the freaking problem," and just learning, speaking against the whole January craziness about new year, new you. And then we have weekly group coaching calls. So the Good Girl Rehab membership is my main thing. And I'm looking to offer workshops through Camp Lovable for good kids and obviously for good girls.
Fantastic. Good Kids, Why You Suffered in Silence and How to Break the Cycle. January 27th, the book comes out. Does it come out in Audible as well?
It does, all formats.
Okay, great. Maggie, thanks so much for being on the show. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
great.
having me. I
Yeah.
love this conversation.
Yeah, this was great. Maggie, Nick, thank you.
Thank you.